Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Hope everybody is doing well. For today's video, I'm going to be reviewing the new ColourPop Stone Cold Fox eyeshadow palette. This is their 4th mega palette and it contains all cool toned eyeshadows. I did get sent this in PR along with the Stone Cold Fox brush set, which I've already done a first impressions review. I'll leave that in the cards here if you guys missed that. But today I'm just going to be focusing on the palette. I'm going to share my thoughts on the shade range, the formulation. I have swatches, comparisons, and I did create 3 looks with this mega palette. So if you guys are curious about my thoughts on the new Stone Cold Fox eyeshadow palette, then please continue watching. Alright, Stone Cold Fox. This is $34 US and you will get 30 shades in here. So it's a really great value. I feel like the bigger the palette, the more value it is. But let's start off with my first impressions when I first saw this palette. For my personal preference, I'm more of a warm tone girl. I don't really reach for cool tones that often. So when I first saw this palette, I myself wasn't really that excited. And when I was looking at the palette, I just felt like a lot of these shades I've already seen before. When I saw this palette, the 3 palettes that I automatically thought of was Making Marks, Blowing Smoke, and Fame. I believe Fame is now discontinued. It's an older palette they had, but that was sort of like their first cool tone palette. So it really reminded me of those 3 palettes, which I already have in my collection. But nonetheless, I just feel like a lot of the shades look dupeable in itself. So I feel like there was just a lot of repeats, and it looked like there was a lot of lighter shades rather than medium and darker shades. Like the ratio was definitely more on the lighter side. But after receiving the palette and playing around with it a little bit, I really do like it. I don't think it's really anything unique to my personal collection because like I said, I do have those palettes from ColourPop and there are a lot of comparable and similar shades. However, I do like the layout of this palette. If you look at it row by row vertically, it sort of has a little like color family for you. So the first row we have the mauves, second row is the neutrals, third row is more like cooler taupey shades, fourth row is more like black and white, then the fourth row again is another row of neutrals, and the last row is more mauvey tones again. So I do like how if you look at the palette, it is quite easy to take on for it being a mega palette. I feel like even for me, when I see a palette like this, it's quite overwhelming, and I typically don't really play around with bigger eyeshadow palettes. I do like a palette that's on the smaller side. Like I really love their 12 pan and their 9 pans. Those sizes are ideal for my brain capacity. But I do like how you have so many options in here. When I was playing with the palette, I do think you can still create a lot of smoky looks. Although the shades in here may look light, I feel like once it's on the eyes, they do translate a lot darker. But there are a lot of shades that I feel like they could have just taken out and done something different. I also think they could have condensed this palette into maybe an 18 pan, or because there are a lot of similar shades in the palette itself. I don't think it was really necessary to have, you know, another shade that was just slightly different, because once it's on the eyes, they all look quite similar. But in saying that, I really do like the look that I created. They were something really different for me personally. It's always a little bit different every time I do a cooler eye look because I'm just not really used to seeing that on me, and I still prefer warmer shadows, but I think it's a nice change up. And if I ever wanted to play with cool tones on the rare occasion, or if I'm doing a really specific look, I would find myself picking up this palette over a couple of my mini palettes like the Making Marks, Blowing Smoke, or the Fame palette. I would rather just grab this one and just have the option, since I'm not really so like invested in cooler tones. I feel like this palette is really great for me, but because I already have those palettes, it's not really that necessary for me to have this one. So I feel like if you have a small collection and your collection is full of warmer tones and you want to add something new into your collection, then this one would be a great one. This would be a better value getting this than grabbing all of those smaller palettes. So yeah, I just kind of want to leave it at that. I don't want to talk too much about it because I feel like you guys kind of get my gist. So with that being said, we're just going to move into the swatches and comparisons now. But the way I'm doing my comparisons for this palette, because it's 30 shadows and it's a mega palette, I decided to just find the most comparable shade I could find and then compare the palette as one whole, if that makes sense. So I'm not going to give you multiple comparisons for each shade. shade. So hopefully you guys don't mind. It is a mega palette. I will be back with, you know, my normal shade by shade comparisons for my next ColourPop video, which will be That's Taupe. That is coming up. Jumping into the first look, I'm going to start off with the shade Stone Age, and this is going to be our transition shadow. I'm just going to work that straight into my crease using windshield wiping motions, just lightly blending this up towards our brow bone and the outer corners. I also take this same shadow onto my lower lash line as well, just sweeping that from the outer corner right to the inner corner. Then going into the shade Play Coil, I'm going to use this shadow to start deepening out the outer third of my eyes. So just using circular motions, packing on the product at the outer corner, and then once you feel like most of the product has left your brush, you can slowly start bringing that in towards the middle of your lid, but you want most of the product at the outer corners. And I'm also going to take this on my lower lash line as well, but I'm taking it on a defining brush just to define the outer third on my lower lash line. Taking the shadow Obsidian, I'm doing exactly the same thing, but I'm using a smaller brush and I'm focusing it a little bit closer to my lash line and on my lid space rather than blending it up into the crease. You're gonna slowly see a soft gradient, and that's exactly what we want. I love doing this technique. You guys obviously have seen me do it many times before. It's just bulletproof and it always looks good, and I just like this technique on my eye shape. Take that onto my lower lash line again with another defining brush to define the outer corners. Then I'm going to go into the shade Mystery, and I'm going to apply this at the inner third of my eyes. This shade is so stunning and I think it pairs so well with the mauvey purple shades that we use. So I'm just going to place that all over my inner third. I'm going to diffuse it out around my crease area, and I also take it in towards my inner corners just to highlight that area as well. And now I'm just going in with my black liquid liner. I'm going to use this to line my lash line and also create a wing. I will go back into the palette and take the shade Rock Bottom, which is the black eyeshadow, and I'm going to use this on an angled brush to smudge and extend my wing out. Of course, this is just optional. It's just my personal preference and how I like to do my wing liner. You could definitely leave it. You don't have to do a wing. Then I'm taking the ColourPop Creme Gel Liner in the shade Honey Dude, and I'm going to use this to tightline my bottom waterline. This is just going to help brighten and open up our eyes. And then lastly, for lashes today, I'm wearing the Honey Lashes from Petite Cosmetics. Alright you guys, so this is the first look completed. I am obsessed with the final result. I think this look is just very monochromatic with the earrings and with the beret as well, and my lip color. So I am just living for this look, to be honest. Even though this technique is something that I do all the time and it's pretty easy and standard, I still hope you guys enjoyed this first look. And now onto the second look. I'm going to start off with the shade Corey Days, and this is going to be our transition shadow. So I'm just going to work that onto my lid, and then I'll slowly blend that up into my crease area. This is also going to be the base color just to really set the tone for the intense smoky eye that we are about to create. I do want to note that I am doing my eyes first. As you can tell, I have no foundation on. Since I knew that this look was going to be quite intense and smoky, I just thought I would do my eyes first in case there was any fallout, but in the end there wasn't really any fallout anyway, but just wanted to let you guys know. Next, I'm going into the shade Cold Classic, and I'm going to start packing the shadow onto my lid space. I'm going to pack on the most pigmentation on my lid, and then I'll slowly blend that up in towards my crease area and towards that transition shadow. Again, the shadow is just going to be working as a base color for the beautiful metallic that I'm going to place on top later. Then I'm going into the shade of Rock Bottom, which is the matte black, and I'm just going to use this to create my wing. So I first like to line my lash line with this shadow, and then I'll create a pretty thick and dramatic wing. And honestly, you can be quite messy since we did do our eyes first. You can always clean up the edges and make it very sharp and precise. But the wing is actually quite thick. Like, I do take the black shadow onto my lash line and like blend it in with the shadow Cold Classic. It's just gonna be a very like intense, dark, smoky eye. So I'm gonna go into the shade Sediment 2B, and I'm gonna place this pretty much all over my lid space. I'm gonna pack it on at my inner corners first and then sweep that out towards my outer corners. And as you can see, this shadow is so metallic and so pigmented, you guys. Like, I just took one swipe and this is all the pigmentation that I have. It is absolutely stunning. I love the gunmetal undertone that it has, but you can see that it almost covers the wing liner that we did. I do go in with my black liquid liner to line my lash line just to intensify the lash line a little bit more. And then I'll go in with the black eyeshadow Rock Bottom, and I'll go over that wing over again just to intensify and smoke everything else. I'm gonna go ahead and pop on my false lashes. These ones are from Petite Cosmetics in the style Honey. And now going back into the shade Cold Classic, I'm going to run this all over my lower lash line. I'm just going to sweep that from the outer corner right to the inner corner, and as you can see, I did do my base off camera, so we're going to go back into the bottom waterline just to finish everything up. I go into the shade of Rock Bottom. I'm just taking a little bit on my brush and I'm just going to use this to define my lash line, and I'll go back and forth with my brushes to blend this all in together. I just wanted to make the eyes look cohesive so the eye look wasn't too top heavy. And lastly, to complete the look, I'm taking the Creme Gel Liner in the shade Hustler to tightline my bottom waterline. And this, you guys, is the second look completed. I am in love with the final outcome. I love a very intense smoky eye. You know, I know it might not be for everyone, but I love a good dramatic glam, and especially with the contacts that I'm wearing, I love it even more. Just something about it, it looks very cohesive and it just sort of makes my eyes stand out a lot more. So I really love this look and I hope you guys love it too. And now we are on to the final look. I'm going to start off with the shade You Rock, and this is going to be our transition shadow slash base color. I'm going to sweep that all over my lid space into my crease using windshield wiping motions, just getting this shadow really well blended out. Then I'm going to move into the shade Bold Type, and I'm going to start packing the shadow on at the outer corners of my eyes and also at the inner third. You can just pretty much put this all over your lid if that's easier and just go in with one brush, but for my outer corners I'm going in with a smaller fluffier brush, and then for my inner corners I go in with a pencil brush. Eyes are a little bit hooded at the inner third, so I want to make sure I am getting product in that area, but you just want to get this blended into the transition shadow and just get this blended, and we're gonna slowly deepen out the look. I also take this onto my lower lash line as well, just to give a base color on the lower lash. Now taking the shade Rumor Mill, I'm going to be doing exactly the same thing, but I'm going in with a smaller brush. So I'm going to focus the shadow at the outer third of my eyes and also at the inner third. This is going to be the deepest shade that we're going to be working with, so just take your time blending this into the other shadows. Again, taking this onto my lower lash line, but on a defining brush, I'm going to press this up against my bottom waterline. Now I'm going into the shade I Dig It, and I'm going to place that right at the center of my eyes. I'm going to place the product right at the center first because that's where the most pigmentation is going to go, and that's where we want it to be. And then once I feel like most of the product is at the center, I'm going to start sweeping left and right around my crease area as well, just to blow and diffuse this metallic out. You want this to be very blown out, very diffused, no harsh lines. You don't really want to see where the metallic starts and finish. So just making sure you are going back and forth with your brushes to get this blended out. I'm then going to take the shade Luxe to highlight my inner corners. This is going to be a nice little matte highlight. And then I'm just going in with my black liquid liner to line my lash line and also create a wing. I will take the black eyeshadow from the palette to smoke and extend that wing out. And lastly, to complete the eye look, I'm just taking my creme gel liner in the shade Hustler, and I'm going to use this to tightline my bottom waterline. And this, you guys, is the final look completed from my last video. A lot of you guys said that you wanted to see more halo eyes. So here is another halo eye from me, just more inspiration, and I definitely will be doing more in the future. So as always, just let me know what type of looks that you guys like to see on my channel and I will film that. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this final look and another halo eye. Alright you guys, so those were the swatches, the comparisons, and my 3 looks. Be sure to let me know which look out of the 3 was your favorite down below. But yeah, I do hope you guys found this video helpful. If you did, give the video a thumbs up for me. It helps me out a lot as well. Also comment down below your thoughts on the palette. Are you guys gonna pick it up? What do you guys think of it? I would love to hear your thoughts down below, and I'll definitely be chatting with you guys as soon as I upload. But with that being said, that is going to conclude today's video, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. I love you guys, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!